My grandfather, a doctor by profession, told me about this patient who used to visit him, a resident of a small remote village. He had a brother suffering from some sort of mental disorder. His family was a target of constant humiliation by the villagers, and this led them to them developing a hatred towards this brother. They believed that chaining him and beating him was the best solution. And herein lies the real problem associated with mental health. If you were to walk in the street, chances are you would be looking at people with mental problems all around you. This is the extent of the prevalence of this issue. An estimated 450 million people worldwide suffer from mental disorders, and a majority of them do not receive any care. Social stigma being one of the prime reasons that prevents people from reaching out for help. Apart from this stigma, a lot of misconceptions have developed due to the lack of knowledge and understanding about mental health. One of the worst and most frequent misconceptions is the snap out of it response. Telling someone with anxiety to just stop worrying, asking a depressed person to just be happy, expecting someone suffering from insomnia to just sleep, all these are like stabbing someone with a knife and saying just stop bleeding. If you've ever suffered from a mental illness, you know the drill. You start talking to a friend about your problems. They listen for a while and offer some support, but eventually they say you need to move on or just get over it. The inability to just get over it is exactly the problem, and this is what separates a mental illness from normal day-to-day stress. Your brain is supposed to be able to filter your emotions and process your thoughts rationally, but sometimes it doesn't. To put it another way, if you could just get over it, you wouldn't have a mental illness in the first place. No one would ever say, it's just cancer, get over it. Why can every other organ in the body get sick and receive sympathy except for the brain? Another very common misconception is that people with mental health problems are violent. The majority of violent crimes are committed by people who do not have a mental disorder. In fact, people dealing with mental health problems are more dangerous to themselves than they are to others. There's virtually no evidence to suggest that mental illness and violence have any meaningful correlation. In other words, having a mental disorder doesn't inherently make someone violent, nor does being violent indicate that someone has a mental disorder. Another damaging misconception is the idea that going to therapy is a waste of time. Therapy combined with medication is considered to be the best treatment for mental health. Therapy provides reassurance that what the person is experiencing is normal and their response is what most would experience in similar circumstances. Although therapy may not be the cure for some people, treatment success rates range from 60 to 85%. Mental illnesses aren't shameful, but the disgrace associated with them is. It is paradoxical that a society that prizes freedom of speech is also one that silences people when it comes to mental health. It's the society's socio-cultural norms that have prevented awareness of mental health from being taught in schools, which enhances the impression that it is something to be ashamed of. People with mental illnesses have, at some point, been blamed for their conditions. They've been called names. Their symptoms have been referred to as a phase or something they could control if they only tried. They have been illegally discriminated against with no justice. And this is the unwieldy power that stigma holds. For a group of people who already carry such a heavy burden, stigma is an unacceptable addition to their pain. And while this issue has been addressed in recent years, the pace of progress has not been quick enough. Now, how do we move from stigma to solutions? The first step to fight mental health stigma is to acknowledge its reality, not only during Mental Health Awareness Month in May, but year-round, for as long as it takes to entirely dismantle it. Destigmatizing mental health starts with small things like having healthy individual conversations about it. We have to treat mental health the way we treat physical health. And we have to fight self-stigma. If you experience a mental illness firsthand, it isn't uncommon to have internalized shame or harmful ideas surrounding mental health. Mental illness is an epidemic impacting human race and needs to be understood. If we were to progress in the direction of gaining more understanding, we would be able to target solutions and treatments. We have to make a beginning. And for that, let's you and I take the first step today.